Thank you for tuning in, friends. I hope you are safe and well during these extraordinary times. I want to think with you today about Jesus as the Good Shepherd from John's Gospel. Let's read a few verses from John chapter 10. First of all, in verse 7, Jesus again said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep." Down to verse 9, Jesus continues, "I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved. He will go in and out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep." Friday, May the 8th, marked the 75th anniversary of VE Day, Victory in Europe. The 8th of May 1945 brought an end to the horrors of World War II. In a radio address to the nation, Winston Churchill said, "My dear friends, this is your hour. We may allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing." A number of years ago, the BBC held a poll to determine who Britain's greatest ever Briton was. Sir Winston Churchill topped the poll, remembered for his leadership during the dark days of World War II. His distinctive voice, his stirring speeches brought the nation together. And in times of crisis, people look for a strong leader. Through this crisis that we're currently living through, our country needs strong leadership more than ever. But that's even more true on a personal level. When it comes to our own lives, we too need a leader. Someone that can not only lead us through this life, but someone who can lead us through death and into the next life. Here in John chapter 10, Jesus presents himself as that leader. He is the shepherd of the sheep. "I am the good shepherd," says Jesus, "who lays down his life for the sheep." What kind of shepherd is Jesus? How does Jesus lead his sheep? Well, I have 3 points from the passage. The first point is this, that Jesus reminds us that he leads his sheep by name. In verse 3 of chapter 10, we read this, Jesus calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. Jesus knows his flock intimately. Look at how Jesus describes his sheep. They are his own. They are his possession. Christian, you are more than just a member of a church. You are one of Jesus' own. He has chosen you. He has called you. He has bought you with his own blood. And you are known to him. Every detail of your life is known to Jesus. He knows what you're passing through. He knows every struggle, every worry, every tear. You are known to Jesus. Jesus leads by name. He is a personal shepherd. Second point is this, Jesus leads from the front. In verse 4 of chapter 10, we read this, "When he has brought out all his own, he goes before them." Here Jesus is using the allegory of a shepherd leading his sheep out of the sheepfold to find pasture. Jesus says, when he, the shepherd, has brought out all his own sheep, he goes before them. You know, in my humble opinion, television has never been the same since the BBC ended One Man and His Dog. But for me, that is my abiding image of a shepherd, driving the sheep from behind, whistling to his sheepdog, communicating to his sheepdog. The shepherd is driving the flock to where he wants them to be. In the Middle East, shepherds didn't drive the flock from behind. They led the flock from the front. Jesus leads his sheep from the front. Jesus, you see, goes before us in life. He knows the way ahead. He knows the dangers that you face. He knows your needs. He knows your weaknesses. He knows your strengths. He knows where to find pasture. And the point is this: we can trust Jesus wherever he leads. It might not seem like it at times. And perhaps now, more than ever, you're wondering, where is Jesus leading you? The point is, you can trust him. We need to remind ourselves of Psalm 23, that wonderful Psalm of David. David writes this: "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake." See, Jesus is not just a shepherd for this life only. He is a shepherd who can lead us through death and into the next life. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We are surrounded by death in these times. COVID-19 has reminded us of the fragility of life. Never before has there been such a focus on death. The daily death count is the lead item in the news. We wait to see how many people have died each day. We're hearing of people tragically dying all alone in hospital beds. You see, the Christian never dies alone, for you are with me. I wonder if you are prepared for death. Who are you trusting to lead you through death and into the next life? Jesus goes before us into death. Jesus leads his sheep from the front. The third point I want to bring to you today is this: that Jesus leads selflessly. He leads sacrificially. Jesus changes the metaphor in the passage in verse 7. See, not only is he the shepherd, but he's also the door. Jesus says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep." He's the way in, you see, the way into the sheepfold. He's the way to God. He's the way to the family of God. He's the way to heaven. And he's the only way. Jesus makes this clear later in John's Gospel in chapter 14, verse 6, where he says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." He's the only way to the Father. But what makes Jesus the door? What makes Jesus the only way? Listen to what Jesus says in verse 11. "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep." Again in verse 15, "I lay down my life for the sheep." In fact, 5 times over in this passage, Jesus refers to his laying down of his life. He is, of course, referring to his cross, where Jesus laid down his life, where he took my sins upon himself and died so that I might live, that by believing in him, I might be saved from my sins, saved from hell, and brought into his fold and brought into the family of God. I mentioned earlier, Winston Churchill, considered the greatest Briton to have ever lived, his leadership during World War II. But not even Churchill fought on the front line in World War II. Jesus faced the battle alone, on the front line, on the cross, Jesus laid down his life. He leads selflessly. He leads sacrificially. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved. Have you entered that door? Or are you still lingering outside of it? Have you given your life to Jesus Christ? Not only does the shepherd know the sheep, but what also comes out of the passage is this, that the sheep know the shepherd. They know his voice and follow him. Verse 3, the sheep hear his voice. Verse 4, the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. Are we listening for the voice of Jesus? Do we want to hear God speaking to us in our lives? Turn to his word, to the Bible, for it's there that God will speak to you. Obey him. Submit your life to him. Have you been listening for God during this period of lockdown? What an opportunity to really get to know God, to soak yourself in his word, to saturate your life in prayer. So just as we bring this devotion to a close, let me ask you a question. Is Jesus Christ your shepherd? Is Jesus your leader? Remember Churchill's words on VE Day. This is your hour, he said to the people. This is indeed your hour to give your life to Jesus Christ. Do you have and do you know the fullness of the life that Jesus alone can give you? Verse 10, he says, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. These are challenging times. Maybe you are finding life particularly difficult. Financial worries. Maybe you have lost your job. Maybe you have had to take a salary cut. Health worries. Maybe you have lost someone dear to you. Perhaps you are beginning to have doubts about your faith, about whether the shepherd really cares for you. Perhaps you are just exhausted and need to find rest. And for you, life is filled with pain, anxiety, and loneliness. The message for all of us from John chapter 10 is this: trust him, trust Jesus. Let Jesus lead you through this difficult time. He knows what you need. He will lead you to still waters, to green pastures. Listen to the words of God from Ezekiel chapter 34. He says, I will seek the lost. I will bring back the strayed. I will strengthen the weak. I myself will bind up the injured. I myself will make them lie down. I myself will be the shepherd of my sheep. And here he is in John chapter 10. Jesus Christ. He has come as God, as the shepherd of his sheep. And he speaks to you today. Maybe you have strayed from the Christian life. Maybe you have wandered from God. Maybe you have turned your back on Jesus. Jesus is seeking you today. I will bring back the strayed. This is all part of his ministry, part of his role as a shepherd. Will you let Jesus bring you back home into the fold? And if you don't know Jesus at all, he came to seek the lost. Do you know the shepherd? Can you say today, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want? Thank you for listening. May God's word be a comfort and a challenge to you today. Stay safe and God bless. Thank you.